Huh.
I hear you, Gary. I guess I know you're there.
I just wanted to let you know, Teresa just texted me, said she's trying to get in and she can't get in.
Interesting.
She's in.
Oh, yes, I see there's people in the waiting room.
Oh, she's there now.
That was that computer's in control. Yeah, mine's there too. Oh, Mariah let him in. Okay, ready? Oh.
You can go ahead. I wouldn't mind getting, if I get into being on there, that will help me. Everything at home, my DNS server, I mean, everything's not at the last second.
The recording appears to be on, so could you use your microphone, please?
Well, the recording's paused, but we haven't started yet.
Okay.
There she is. State town of Danby is actually Mariah.
One of them is, the other is you.
What's that?
There are two town of Danbys. One of them is the meeting room and the other is Mariah.
Yeah, one of them is the camera pointing at us. There you go, the computer here.
Right, and the co-host is in the clerk's office.
Correct. Are you ready?
Do you need anything, Joel?
Yes, I was just starting the recording.
Oh, very good.
All right, ready. So I have an addition, if people are agreeable.
Okay.
This came up in the course of talking to was it the staff meeting? Or just talking?
We had a long talk with the guy about
Right. Right.
prosecuting.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, which led to this addition to the agenda. Which, if you're agreeable, because Greg's here, we could deal with first.
Is there a need to do it now? Next meeting? I only, I mean, this was
I wouldn't.
a special meeting of that one topic, and I mean, if we need to time-wise, then we sure could, but it's not something that I need to know. I mean,
Leslie, can you talk into your microphone, please? Thank you.
Have you turned it on? It's the one that doesn't light up.
They gave me faulty equipment.
So it's not necessary for today.
Yeah, there's no sign of a shop.
Well, I mean, there isn't. The,
Do you have to go knock on doors between now and the next meeting?
No.
Rather not. You know,
It makes sense to hold it until, because the meeting was specified for this special meeting for these purposes. Unless there's a need to do it now, then it's better to wait until the next official meeting when it's on the agenda officially, and plenty of time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a reason to put it on now rather than wait another week, but it's not like you can't wait a week.
Then I say we should wait a week.
Agree?
I'd like to get on with what we're here for today, and, you know, if we ran into hours of extra time at the end, but I don't think that'll happen. So, yeah, I think, all right, we need to take it off there, not put it on, whichever way that is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the issue.
You just have to remember to put it on in the next meeting.
Well, yeah. And does anybody want to address the board on privilege of the floor before we get into the meat of the matter? Okay, now we get to it. Thoughts? Rhonda does. Go ahead.
Am I going first here?
Yep.
I just want to say that anything that, including deputizing the, planner and the CEO, anything to get, some of these thousands of violations of code, resolved, would be great, in my opinion. So whether it's deputizing or doing something else, hiring somebody, I don't really care. You know, this place is just flooded with them, and you weren't, except for Leslie, you guys weren't at the planning board meeting where the one party was asking for their property to be divided, and the map of their property showed that they had 6 sheds, 2 lean-tos, and a cabin, all on their property without any kind of permit. So these things are just all over the place. Thank you.
Anybody else? Of course, Ted.
Just some procedural stuff. I was reading over the material, and on the org chart, Paul Hansen's name is misspelled. The highway department has a superintendent and a deputy, and
Yes.
legal counsel isn't spelled that way. Minor details.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to see what you achieve during this meeting.
Me too. So I gathered there's an updated version of the thing after I printed it out.
Agenda today.
Right, you want a screen share?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got one.
My mouse has stopped working. So yes, I will screen share. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so it's fun to do this without a mouse. I mean, yeah, superintendent. So, yeah.
Yeah, details, highway superintendent.
Right, so I don't know what happened to my mouse. I'm a little flustered, sorry. So this has gone through many iterations, and I've had a lot of suggestions on how this can be organized. I think what we want to focus on today is the relationships. Certainly the people who work for the clerk, work for the highway superintendent, work for the court. You know, those relationships are very traditional, but the relationships between the board and the committees and the town employees are, you know, I come from corporate culture, and it's not exactly corporate culture. And so I think that's what we wanted to talk about today. Joel, did you want to say more about that?
in the course of things, because indeed that's the relationships are not all the same, so that it's hard to render the subtlety in a chart, which is, I think, what you were struggling with, and so was I. I like that, my comment on the previous one would have been to put the town supervisor in the town board, but you've done that.
Right, right, because the town supervisor is a member of the town board.
Right. So, I mean, it could be a line between town board and, planner, code officer.
Everything else.
Well, practically everything else, huh?
Yep.
Except the nature of the line is different. The nature, the line from the town board to the town clerk, for instance, is different than the line to the planner. And the court is also different. It's sort of, semi-independent because although it's housed here and its budget is determined by the town board, their operations are pretty independent of our oversight or any kind of supervision.
And there's no line that says town court into town board, so it shows that independence. It shows that independence in the chart.
Yes, but in your previous statement 2 minutes ago or less, you said there should be a line to everything.
Everything that doesn't have a line now should go to the town board.
So that would include the court.
Yeah.
No, the court already is attached to here. Anything that's outside that doesn't have a chart should go into the town board. So town board goes to energy advisor, EMC, legal counsel, planner, code officer, West Danby Water District workers, West Danby Water District, advisory committee, CAC, youth commission, BZA, planning board, all go to the town board.
You need to be careful of which Shawley you're referring to in some of these. The bookkeeper Shawley is not the same as the deputy supervisor Shawley.
Right, you are interjecting out of turn.
Yes.
I mean, the highway, is your title bookkeeper? There needs to be the highway superintendent to the deputy supervisor and the deputy.
You serve in multiple roles, right?
Leslie, I cannot hear you.
And
And
then, Laura needs another box attached to, Keith.
which in a previous iteration she had, as I recall.
Yeah.
So there should be another box over here for, what? Secretary to the highway superintendent?
Is it called secretary
I think so.
or is it bookkeeper? Secretary.
I think,
Where the hell is Laura?
I think the bookkeeper is only one position. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Okay,
My secretary-
well, we can find out.
Secretary or clerk.
So the clerk doesn't actually work, works with the town board, like the highway superintendent. I don't know if you want to have different types of lines. We all work together. What does a line mean? Does a line mean that we just report to the board, which is certainly, I think, the case?
Yeah,
That everybody reports to the board.
yes, you're right. Everybody reports to the board, right?
Right, and is that, we could maybe center the board more just to have an understanding that everybody reports to the board.
Right.
Well, not everybody does, though. The court-
No,
The
everybody
court-
that's not there now,
court-
we need
clerk-
to change the chart
town
so
court
it's easy to
doesn't-
get those lined up there, because otherwise it's, planning board is way over here and it's hard to put it. So we need to
Crooked
get
line.
bigger room. We need just more room so that the lines can be easier drawn to the town board.
Okay,
Well, I mean, it could
Circuit
be a,
diagram,
could be a circle
line.
around the group with one line to the town board.
Well, we're looking
mean-
at the planning board here in the BZA, but whatever, that's the picture. The point is, those lines go to the town board.
There should be line to the town board from those other ones.
Right, right.
Now, there are interesting subtleties, though. For instance, the BZA is quasi judicial. That's what I'm getting at. Right. Well, the planning board and the BZA both are appointed by, but they have their own independent operating
Right.
authority. They don't answer to the town board.
Well, yeah, I mean, the only way they answer the town board is if you don't appoint them, I mean, the town board appoints them, so.
Yeah, and to the extent that we assign them other things to do than what they normally do. But that's not the case with the BZA, but it would be with the planning board. They have certain statutory roles. The planning board does site plan reviews and subdivision approvals. But if we ask them to do other things,
Well, there are a number of things that we ask them to advise the town board about.
yeah, in which case there's more of a correct
We
connection.
haven't passed.
They're acting then, under our, direction.
Which is different than the BZA.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. But we don't direct anything that BZA does.
But the BZA does report to the board. They make reports. They tell the board what they're doing.
Not really.
Not really.
I mean, there's
Okay.
there's a public record. of
Oh,
what
they
they
just-
do.
There's a record of what they do. But
Right.
it doesn't, it's not like, I have a report that goes to the board. The planner reports to the board. It makes a report and it goes to the board.
No.
They don't.
No? Okay, very good. I'm learning.
Yeah, well, when you think about it, it's a little confusing.
Well,
Like
I say,
the
there's
planning board
subtlety.
is different. I mean, it's,
But the report to the board usually comes through Greg. He reports to the board on what the planning board and the BZA does.
Yeah,
And he reports to the newsletter too, thank you.
but they have, they have their own chairs and that's, I mean, we find out what's going on maybe through Greg.
well, I mean, a line to the BZA or to the planning board means something different than a line to the bookkeeper or the planner or the code officer.
Well, the lines, the BZA line is also different than the planning board line.
Yes, it is. That's what I say. There's subtleties here that are hard to render in lines. I don't know how you do that. You did
Yeah,
it in- the
we
previous
can,
version, Mariah, you had like
Oh.
dashed lines and, sort of half shaded lines to introduce some of that subtlety.
yeah, we could certainly do that. So, and we can line them up in line, more traditional hierarchical. So you're telling me that the town board really is the top of the hierarchy?
Yep, well, to the extent that there's a hierarchy, yes, it is.
Okay,
Well, you're only talking about the governmental part of it, because as you pointed out, it's the residents, so in the hierarchy, did you have a specific reason for choosing the colors? That might be helpful to know, what the colors might mean to you. Because this is actually Mariah's work with some input from along the way to try and help us have a more, an understanding of town business and how it operates amongst ourselves and in relation to how people in the town might connect. And I have, as far as the planner goes, it's been times when the planner has brought, the planning board has brought something back to the town board, and the town board says, okay, yeah, but you can have it back. But there's something like that has happened as well. So there can be a back and forth with the planning board. There's no back and forth with the BZA, I don't think. When the BZA makes the decision, the BZA makes the decision.
Right, and if there's gonna be
Ah.
nobody's gonna appeal to the town board, something that the BZA does, have to go to the courts.
Yeah.
So did you have a
So-
specific?
Okay, so to answer your question about the colors, I just had the town employees be that light tan color, just to distinguish them from the town officials who are the elected officials who are elected by the residents. And then the consultants and representatives, my understanding is they are volunteers, except for certainly legal counsel is not a volunteer. So, and then the boards, and some of the boards have a paid secretary. So I did show that in another version of the graph. I don't know if that, the BZA, the Water District Advisory, the BZA, and the Planning Board. Oh, and I think maybe the CAC has a paid secretary.
Yeah, so those paid secretaries are town employees.
Right, correct. And so that's why on another version of this, I had that color, that tan color as the employees.
Well, that would make sense.
So we could certainly fashion this in a more traditionally hierarchical sense. And yeah, I think that might take out some of the confusion about all the employees. So when you say reporting to, these employees make reports to the board, but do they report to the board? Like, is the board their supervisor?
No.
I guess my question is, when someone like Greg wants to take a vacation, does he clear that with the board?
Yeah, pursuant to policy. So what the board does is establish policy. I mean, that's how the administration gets done mostly. So pursuant to policy, which is then administered by somebody else. In this case, much of the HR stuff is done by Laura. So that's just following the guidance provided by the board. So there's no one person here, especially not me, to whom they, although I did get that question in the beginning.
I thought the other version was more helpful and I liked it when it showed the secretary to the particular board.
Rhonda, you're out of order.
Yes.
Interestingly, the version you just gave me is a little bit different than that one too. Yeah.
I mean, I like sort of circle. I mean, when I was, you always think of it as hierarchical. Well, you can't do that with these positions. I mean, I don't think you can do it easily. I mean, the secretaries are under the different groups, but, I like that they're sort of clumped together, the consultants, the councils, committees, boards. I mean, maybe they could be moved around a little bit, but I sort of like the circle.
Well, I like having the
And
town board
everybody's
in the
part of
middle,
the circle.
instead of on top, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, there's residents in the middle.
Mhm. I don't know that, I mean, we can always keep in mind that it's the voters that put us here, but they don't provide any kind of, day to day, month to month.
Now that, we can't have an election every.
Exactly. So, I mean,
But what it shows in the chart, it shows that we got here because of that, and that we need to keep.
Yeah,
you need to keep it in mind at least.
We need to keep it on paper.
I think that the fact that we keep just looking at I'm gonna say nitty gritty of a chart like this this is only for us to understand and set up something to remind or to recognize the position of different people in the town government. And so I think that it's a good idea for Mariah, she's working on this as the same part of working on how we can set up all our document searches, everything. It makes, this is all just part of the whole picture of moving forward and then moving into 365 and organization of everything. This is just a part.
Yeah. And at some point, I want to focus on the water district component because it's more complicated, because it's got multiple layers. We've had some intense interactions because of misunderstandings on my part and the committee's part and the employee's part regarding what decision-making is done where.
That, I think, may be a future discussion if we're going to change policies or jobs of different boards. You could say the same thing about the CAC or anything else. You could say,
I'm not talking about changing anything, I'm talking about clarifying what's currently the case. And that's why we're
well,
here.
I'm saying that it could be changed.
Of course it could. In fact,
We don't know what it
We gotta
is yet
figure
to
out
see if we
I
change it.
know.
We're not,
I said,
we don't know what it
Yeah.
is yet to see what we can change. I
and
think
I'm going to speak to that.
the board itself, when, what's her name? What's her name?
Meryl.
Meryl, sorry. When Meryl was here, noticed that according to them, the board reports to the town board. That was their understanding, and that makes perfectly good sense to me. So the West Danby Water District should report to the town board.
The advisory committee is there to report to the town board.
Mm-hmm, right.
Their role is to advise the town board. The confusion and consequently the tension lies in a different understanding of the roles. The advisory committee, for some pretty good reasons, saw itself, still sees itself to some degree, as a decision-making body for the water district. And that it is not and has not ever been.
I think it was. I
Yes,
think
it was.
It never was legally.
Okay, so,
Okay.
are you,
I have.
why was it originally called a commission?
That is a very good question, but let me share with you, because I have it, you're gonna share it with them too.
I have that,
Do you have that?
yeah.
Do you have, the original resolution that established this group too? This is that.
Yeah, maybe we should be talking about not the misunderstanding, but what it should be.
Yeah, well, the question is, there's two questions, what it should be and what it is, or what it's understood to be. Everybody agree?
And we got these things between us, we can reach them. I don't know.
Yeah. So.
Let me see what you got, I don't, it looks familiar, I think of,
I think we handed out.
yeah,
Yeah, the original resolution in 1969.
yours?
68.
Yeah, but you can have this, and then, I don't know, is this the same thing?
Did you get that one?
Yeah, this is the same thing.
Yeah.
So, when the district was first established in 1968, the town board established an advisory committee. Because if you read the language of this, it's all about advising the town board, but they gave it a grand name. Let's see.
Excuse me, if you're no longer referring to the chart, can you remove the share so we can see you?
But could
No.
we,
Oh.
Thank you.
you know,
So they gave it a grand name. To establish a citizens advisory board known as the West Danby Water District Citizens Water Commission, with power to recommend policies, rates, and rules for the operation of said water district. When it goes on, it gives them a whole bunch of things. It's a pretty broad mandate, basically to advise the town board on all things water district. That was the original resolution. And for the first 40 years of the water district's existence, it was operated by Roy Casterline. The operator was given broad discretion to operate the system as he knew how to do, and the board did not. So he reported occasionally. I remember it being, was it ever any more than annually? Remember?
Well, if there were problems and stuff, we certainly heard about it.
Yeah. So Roy would come to the board and bring things to us.
Somebody would.
Yeah.
Todd.
The group, when Roy was running the district, rarely met. They met when he wanted signatures.
Are you talking about the
committee?
people who, the committee, not the people who worked at the,
Well, at the time, Roy was trying to be a one-man show.
right, well, a lot of the people that were working, actually doing the work, were also part of the group.
Right.
Right.
In the beginning, and up until recently, the operators were, the operator, at least, was a
Right.
member of the
Right.
committee. And if the committee's role is to advise the town board, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's an appropriate way to do it. When I became supervisor, I misunderstood that and thought that the committee had a supervisory or oversight role, in which case it's not appropriate for the operator to be part of the group. I mean, basically have a part of the group that's providing you with direction. So I asked Todd, who was operator at the time, to step down because he agreed with me on that point, but we were both wrong, which made room for Bruce Richards, whom we appointed at that time. And Bruce immediately became chair, and they did a lot of good work. The nature of the group changed when Carl became operator, with the group working more closely with Carl to actually run the district and make decisions about how it was run. Roy didn't ask people how to do it, he just did it. It changed again when Todd became the operator. Todd worked pretty closely with me. And always he reported to me, and if there were any questions, he brought them to me.
Why did he bring them to you?
Well, because he saw me as being in a supervisory capacity, which was again a misunderstanding, but it was a misunderstanding that I shared.
Right.
So, so that was underlies some of some of the reason why we're clarifying things here.
I mean, it made sense that he's talking to somebody. He would also come to meetings. But if they needed something or they wanted some equipment or there was a problem and they needed, the board certainly heard about it.
Well, the key.
I don't know what
Yeah.
role you were.
So anyway, so this was operative until 2021, as far as I can tell. And then in 2021, with the help of RCAP Solutions, I can never remember what they mean, but that's the support group that provided help with the developing policies and guidance. And I know this is precipitated by that. It might be precipitated by the TJ Pelangeli's request to have water service extended to him on Hillview Road, which was outside the district. And in the course of dealing with that, there's no policy underlying the operation of the district. So Guy, in the course of that, worked with the committee to come up with an operating policy, which the committee reviewed and which the town board adopted in 2021. So that's what the second sheet is. it's many pages, but the part that bears on the
So
role
the
of the committee,
discussion has morphed into exactly why is the West Danby Water District what it is and who really runs
What's
it,
going on? Could
Ted,
you
Ted,
mute
you
people?
two are out of order.
going through history of the district since day one. And it's riveting.
Could you mute them or can Mara?
Well, see, the trouble is this computer's in control
Oh,
and it's not so easy. After my computer.
Oh, good.
Anyway. Where was I? So this sheet here is just the one page that pertains to the committee. In the course of this, in order to get rid of this implication that the Water Advisory Committee was something other than an advisory committee, and not a board or commission like unto the Board of Fire Commissioners, because saying a Board of Water Commissioners implies some sort of legally similar legal structure, and that was not the case, but it's implied, kind of like town supervisor implies that I'm supervising somebody, but in fact, there's not a whole lot of supervisory role in the law in that capacity. So the group was renamed as part of the adoption of the water district policy, renamed what's it called? The Town Water Advisory Committee, to make it clear that its role is to advise the town board and not to be the decision-making body for the district. So, I mean, it just needs to be made clear. So I shared with the board, I shared with the committee at the last meeting, both the original resolution and this, as well as a sort of a small scale organizational chart, which looked like that, which underscored the ambiguity, because and the ambiguity we had is there with respect to how does the operator relate to the committee? The operator is similar to the planner or the code officer in that he reports to the town board. The town board is the one that provides the policy, operating policy for the position. They don't report to or the committee. They are and can report to the committee in the sense that the committee needs to know whether or not how well they are complying with policy, and in order to develop recommendations regarding the operations of the system, they have to have their finger on the pulse, so to speak, and know what's going on, what the problems that are developing, and so forth. So I've got question marks here over the relationship between the committee and the staff. It's pretty clear to me now, what it's legally set up to be, but that's not the way it's been operating. The committee acts like a governing board, but it's not. The town board is the governing board.
so what's the committee?
An advisory committee.
For who?
For
Town
us,
board.
And the operators or,
report to the board, not to us.
and why have, what's the relationship between the operators and the committee?
That's what I was just speaking to. The committee observes, I guess that's the word I would use, the operations of the district staff. So it's appropriate for the operator to inform the committee, how's it going? The difference is that the committee doesn't direct the operator.
But the committee is supposed to make sure things are going according to the policy and stuff. So, and if they see that there's something wrong, they run to the town board and not to the operators and help them figure out how they're supposed to be doing it.
Of course, they could tell them, well, they're not, it's not, their job is to advise us. It's our job to be dealing with deviations from policy, I guess you could say, because we set the policy.
Maybe this is.
Backing up a little bit, you know, this is, I think, only one of 2 water districts in the county that has a committee like this. Dryden has one, and that's where Guy pulled his let's say, background that they created the water district operating policy. Newfield has no committee. The staff report directly to the town board. Work with the town supervisor. And they're also highway department staff.
You know, I don't know, maybe things just need to make sense to me, and this is not making any
It doesn't
sense.
make any sense
I
to me.
only
I'll
because.
keep doing- I feel like
Well-
we're getting in a circle and going like this
Well-
and then cutting across and going back again.
Maybe that's why, one of the reasons why I was sort of not interested in going into the weeds about what happened in the past, or we should be deciding what it should be like. And to have a committee, some kind of an advisory committee that sort of really doesn't have any interaction or importance to the operators is bizarre to me. Is just bizarre. And I mean,
It's certainly
why
important to the
bother?
operator.
And instead you're putting your, you know, I don't know anything, I know a little bit, but not much about the water district. If they all quit tomorrow, if all those operators quit tomorrow, I can't help, I can't fill in. And, you may think that you personally know a lot. Well, you may not always be here. We may not always be here. We're changing every 2 years potentially. And I think that the committee, the water council or whatever it's called now are the group that know the most. If there's a problem with an operator, they can, hopefully there are people that can step in. And which is one of the reasons why I didn't have trouble with some of the operators. Maybe it could not be all, you know, 1 or 2. I don't have a problem with a couple of the operators being on the committee. And actually, to me, it made sense. It feels like these silos that aren't functioning in a good way. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't, maybe,
Well,
Seems
certainly-
like it would be a lot more efficient if the, if the operator, the main operator, reported to the committee. The committee can still be an advisory committee if necessary, but the committee should be able to make some decisions right off the bat without having to go to the
Well,
town board.
especially
The
if-
town board is backup.
especially if they're supposed to, if they're a
Doesn't
group
know
who
what's
is supposed to
going on.
know what the policy and
Right.
procedure and management is supposed to be. And if they see something, I don't know why the groups, I don't know why they wouldn't step in, and not that they didn't have, they could also inform the board, but this is a group of people who have a special skill. And I think
Well, some-
leaving, I think putting, well, some of them, oh, so are we having a problem with some of the people that are there? That they aren't skilled enough to help out or to know what's going on? Are we,
Problem now. I mean, the difference between them and us is that they're focused on one thing.
Well,
yeah,
that's appropriate.
I think it is. I mean, that's why the committee exists.
Right.
Because I'm not saying it's not.
I think it makes sense that, according to this, the way the diagram is here, that the West Danby Water District Director is responsible for the employees. That certainly makes sense. They have to have somebody that knows what's going on to report to.
Well, this is.
Makes sense to me that the director would report to the advisory committee, and the advisory committee then goes to the board.
do the operators, go to the meetings?
Yeah, usually. Again, I would make it because, they have,
Because they're plugging holes?
no, because they work full-time jobs and well, they couldn't probably make it, they made meetings in the evening, but you know, meeting at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Scott, was that the last?
I'd like to share my screen just so that we can, see what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Are you there? So what we're talking about here is this,
Look at this instantly change. As
You know, I think what Pat may have said is that the Water Advisory Committee goes up to the operator and the operator goes up to the board, or does,
Vice versa.
oh, take this
Yeah.
like that.
Have a connection to the operators.
And the
Okay,
operators go to the main operator.
right, and then also unclear with the relationship of the clerk to the operator. The committee, so we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting. The committee, I said, you know, because you could imagine it the other way around. You could imagine the clerk being the head of the department, so to speak.
The clerk is one of the workers. We showed it here.
Yes.
The worker goes to the head of the director.
Well, that is the question, and I was just trying to address. You can imagine it with the clerk working for the operator. You can also imagine the operator working for the clerk. At one point, I was talking to Scott, and you know, he said, "Well, you know, what's my relationship to you?" I.e., to me. And I said, you know, and I probably misrepresented it, but you know, he works for us, the committee. I mean, the board, just like Steve does and Greg does. Works for us.
Right, well, all the operators do.
All
And I would-
the staff people do.
Yeah.
Right. So at some point he said, "I'm just the operator." Well, you know, just the operator is, in my mind, a department head. But it could conceivably be seen the other way around. And here's where the relationship between the operator and the clerk is ambiguous. For the first 50 years, we had the husband and wife team being the operator and the clerk. So it was never an issue how they could, you know, what the relationship was from one to the other. They worked together, they worked it out. It became less clear when Todd became operator and Carl retired, because then what's the relationship between Todd, the operator, and Marge, the clerk? So the first time it was like, well, so what are they? So we talked about that a little bit. But the committee's feeling was that they should be co-equal.
Who's the we
Who's
that
the we?
talked about this?
We being all the people in the room, which was all the committee members and me, because I was there.
You don't mean we.
No, not this week.
That's what we're
That
talking
week,
about.
yeah.
Well, now we're back to you with it as not even a member of the committee.
At the last meeting, we who were there talked about this. And the committee's preference was that the clerk and the operator be basically co-equal. The one's not under the other.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it can, yeah, but then
So what's the
Well,
council do?
what does the committee do, you mean?
I thought it was called council.
No, it's called the
Oh,
water. So what's now,
Because I spent like 5 minutes trying to figure out what the water council was and something that you sent.
well, that said, in 2021, when we adopted the
Right.
new operating policy for the water district, the name of the group was changed to the Town Water Committee.
Maybe, okay. There's something you wrote recently.
Right here, it
that
says water advisory, I mean,
Council.
it looks like it has about 5 meetings, and that's confusing.
Well, it was, and
Is.
for the longest time, and that's why I was a little bit irritated when we were speaking to Meryl the other night, because she kept referring to the board.
Well, I always knew it as the.
Well, it was a
commission.
board
So
until
can we, is there any way,
2021.
I would like to ask them, that the clerk, the operators, and the committee to tell me, I want them to, I would like to see what they think the relationships are and what would, not what was, or maybe even not what is, but what makes sense.
Okay, so.
What makes sense?
So let me tell you the more, which is at the last meeting, after I reviewed, what the is, I suggested that this has not been the way, it has been operating functionally. And maybe we should revisit or examine the question of what it should be and make it, and make that the legal framework for the district. And a committee was appointed, a committee of two, to propose, precisely what you're suggesting.
Who's the committee?
Ben Coakley and Peter McDonald.
Huh.
Are going to review the policy and bring a proposal back to the
Okay.
to the
To them.
committee.
So Ben and Peter?
Yeah, and then that committee, and that will come to us. It probably ought to be reviewed by God.
So that means we don't need to be spending all this time.
Right.
We need to wait until the committee comes to us.
Right.
We're wasting our time, and we've just spent 35
Well, I
minutes.
think, I mean, it's
Well, I
not all
don't-
a waste.
I don't see it as a waste, because we have an ongoing issue
Yeah.
with Merrill, thinking of that group and speaking of that group as
Oh,
the
come
board.
on.
Well,
Huh?
that's actually, I also, I mean,
Well,
you know,
from the
so did
get-go,
I.
the thing, the
So
only
did
thing I
I.
noticed the difference, I mean, I'm looking through stuff, it looks like to call something a commission, that the people on that commission really should be elected. And they're not, they're appointed.
right,
That's the only different, I mean, that to me is what, in looking at what different towns do, whether they call it a commission or whether they call it a committee or whatever, is whether it's appointed or elected. So, I mean, I think we just need to get from them what makes sense, and so that they can get what they need, they can get support. If they're all familiar with the procedure and policy thing, that book that got written, who's responsible for orienting the operators, and the operators responsible for adhering to that, or does the committee, make sure that people are adhering to it? It's a little hazy. I hope Ben and Peter, are they gonna get it done tomorrow?
I'm not sure when, well, I'm not sure they'll have it done for the next meeting, but it's the charge. You can see how, if you have, if you see yourself as a board or commission, and then I show up and start attending the meetings, how anything that I say or at a meeting would be seen as interference with their independent operation. And that's the way Merrill has acted from day one.
This is not supposed to be something where we were dealing with a single conflict between you and another person. This is not what we are supposed to be dealing with. We are looking at the policy in general and what's good for the water district, not your own personal biases and annoyances about a single other person. That's totally inappropriate. And if there's already a committee working on this, we need to let them work.
I think we need to let them work as well.
Well, I don't disagree with that.
I think that the idea that I think if there's an issue about what people are being called, then I think that needs to be changed. And if commissioners is incorrect because they're supposed to be elected by the population, not by.
If there were going to be a commission, but they're
Well,
not.
I don't, hey, Joel, you really have been holding the floor, and it is, and I don't feel that we have gained, the only thing I feel that we have gained is that we now know that there's a group, there's two people there that are trying to help organize this. And the other, to me, the most important thing is that the people who are involved, I'm not going to use any of those words because they're too confusing. The people who are involved know how to run that district. They somehow, there's an understanding or a working relationship or whatever they're going to come up with for people who look at the income and the outgo of money compared to what's needed to operate the district and to receive the revenue to cover those costs. That to me is, it makes sense to me. It doesn't make sense. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Go
Well,
ahead.
I just want, so I'm just focused on my little org chart here. And I just want to summarize that this is where we are having a question between, like, does the well, I guess it's this whole water district. So this is what we're exploring right now. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Okay,
that's
so
what
we
there's a
don't-
committee working on it from the water district to bring it back to us to make
Oh, very good.
suggestions on how it works. Yes, there's two people that formed a committee that are already working on it to bring it to us.
Very good.
I mean, I don't, we can, I don't know, the personality conflicts or whatever is going on, but in 68, the Citizens Advisory Board, known as the West Danby Water District Citizens Water Commission.
Yeah, that was a
Okay,
problem from the
so, well, it wasn't necessarily a problem
No.
from the get-go,
Right.
from 68 to, what was it?
91.
21,
yeah.
they were a water commission. If you look up water commission, I don't think it's off the wall the way people have responded to being corrected or, I don't know, I think I would, maybe we should stop talking about it until Ben and Peter.
Yes.
I mean, I would really be interested in how they think things would be smooth and make sense. But I also think that, I think that we should, ask that they have a person come to our, at least one board meeting a month, and I think that we could rotate who goes to that meeting. But I think we should try and do things a little differently, so there aren't bad feelings. I don't think it's just Merrill, but,
And we, everybody on the planning board doesn't come to every meeting of the town board. Every member of the town board doesn't go to every BZA meeting. We go and we have a representative from each of those, whatever you want to call them, who brings issues back if there is one that needs a town board decision, and it could be a policy change or something like that. And to me, that makes more sense. And I mean, most of the things that the planning, the BZA, and a lot are not, I'm going to use a phrase, life and death issues, but the water district could be.
yeah.
There's something wrong in the water. There's no water for, somebody has a CPAC machine, can't run it because there's no water. I mean, there are issues that are important, and the people, I think the people there should have autonomy to respond to those problems and come to, perhaps the next time there's an opportunity, bring that to the attention of the board, because it might mean that there's a financial issue that they need to
Backup, help.
yeah, something like that. So anyway,
I don't disagree with any of this.
Yeah, so let's wait
Because
for
we
that.
have a good, competent group, working down there. And I've been, observing and participating, ever since I was elected. And we'll continue to do so. But,
could you take a vacation from that?
In the past, I recall that at some time in meeting, this is a long time in the past, that there was during meetings, somebody, there were suggestions about who from the board is representing the board on various committees, like the planning board and the BZA. I recall that being discussed at meetings and the board making those decisions. That would make sense here too, and that includes West Danby Water District. So you don't choose to go, the board chooses who the representative
Who
is.
the representative is going to be, the meetings are public meetings, anybody can attend. Including me.
As a public, not as
Yeah,
a official representative of the board.
Right,
That's
true.
the difference.
Well, and I noticed, I was not attending as an official representative of the board, I happened to be the only one there who was a member of the board.
Yeah, the only trouble is that we have the same issue here. What we have is a privilege of floor time, and then that's it. Whether it could be respected that,
Well, unless there's something that comes up that you on the agenda for, it, which is what happened, you know.
every meeting.
All the time.
Anyway, I think that we're finishing up. We got way off track from the organizational. We have some people coming back.
I think it'd be helpful if they could, maybe Ben and Peter could also give us feedback about what would be helpful as
Right,
far as
me too.
the board coming there or them coming to us, could we rotate, alternate, one person go, every other meeting or whatever. But what would be helpful to them, for them, and could they, rotate, take turns coming to one meeting a month or something? I mean, that would be helpful, I think.
I agree.
It would be nice
So
if
let's
we
find out.
mend relationships. We already have the West Danby people in general feeling like they don't, they're way over the hill and everything happens up here.
They often feel left out.
Right,
No,
and I think
I'm not
it's
sure
important
that's-
for
I'm not
us.
sure that's true.
Oh, I know it's true.
I do too. I've heard it plenty.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I
so-
know it's
yeah.
true from talking,
Oh,
knocking
yeah.
on doors and stuff. So,
And it might be good for others of us to rotate into whatever meetings, maybe the West Danby meeting. The thing is, the one thing that I don't think is helpful at all is for any of us to go and act like, because we're town board, that
They're in charge.
we're better, we know more, we have more control, any of those things, any of them. So, and I think that in spite of whether, maybe they should have a policy in that meeting also that there's privilege of floor and that's it, except for the board, the people who are whatever they're called, they can conduct a meeting, and then you could write a letter to them, just like somebody might write a letter to the board, or send, not take up meeting time.
I mean, they are an advisory committee to this board.
Yeah, but you are not on that
we
meeting,
interject ourselves into their.
right?
Developing their advice.
Not unless they ask, that's advisory.
I mean, it'd be good to take a step back if there's been problems, see,
Right.
just to pay attention to what's going on and how we can have good feelings.
All around the town, right? Mariah, did you have some other things?
Yeah, can we go back to the chart?
What's that? We'll go back. to.
Oh,
David,
Change
you've been-
She
you've been
took away
playing
the
with it.
circle. She took away my circle. I like the circle.
I'm sorry, I'll put the circle back.
Sent her a suggestion for a trip.
Oh,
last
she's
year,
listening
so
to
I-
you? Oh. Wait a minute.
It looks-
You have no
Yeah.
line to the clerk.
Was it,
That is a
was this
deep-
your result of your,
Actually, that looks good, but there's no sense in talking about that without having time to look at it. It's after 5.
yeah,
We've been here since 4. And I would like to look at this one, have time to look at this one.
I will send it out to the board.
Can
Oh,
you
thank
put-
you so much.
can you add the,
You're
citizen voters at the top?
Yeah,
Or
the voters. That's why. I
Oh,
like-
yes, I'll put the voters back in. Sure, sure, sure.
you put them on top.
Absolutely. I will get that.
What's this one off to the left? It's all by itself.
Yeah.
Purple.
This is the BZA?
Oh, BZA. Yeah, it's true. They are kind of off themselves.
But they're still appointed,
Right.
Yeah, they're appointed.
Yeah, we need to identify the ones that are
It's
appointed.
like a lot
Good
of them,
point.
there's appointment and then there's another like financial thing. like, maybe we don't have a line going to highway anyway, but we do pocketbook wise.
Yeah, right.
So it's hard to get
Get-
everything into one.
Express the subtleties, that's what you say,
Yeah.
the colors help, but,
Right, yeah,
but then maybe the nature of the line could change or something.
Well, I think where it gets to be something we haven't talked about at all is where there's some kind of road problem in one of them, and then what? So within the BZA, if there's a road problem, somebody from the BZA comes to us and says, help, there's something wrong. Or we say, hey, it looks to be something
that's
wrong.
happened.
Yep. So that would be,
Right. In that terms, we're not responsible for their decisions. But if there's something wrong with the committee's operation, that is our
well,
responsibility.
and that's what I'm thinking about. I don't want the whole West Danby people to quit the water system. We'd be in
Yeah, exactly.
no water.
You do.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Same thing with, it's interesting to me that the terms are different in these different organizations, because I don't want to use any of those words that start with COMM and end with IPPE. Their numbers of years or the terms are all different.
Yeah, it's true. And
And
some of them
so-
are like 2-year terms, some of them are
Right.
like 7-year sentences.
Well, yes. And I think maybe, I don't know whether that reflects anyway in a chart to show that there's the kind of checks and balances that happen because there's different terms where some people will be around through history and some people are come in and out.
Mhm. Well, like, for instance, look at the town clerk. She has a statutory list of things that she's responsible to do. And then at the end of the list is, whatever else the town board asks you to do, then willing to pay for. So, for those tasks, in a sense, she's responsible to the town board. So there could be a line there, but not for the other ones. The statutory ones are things that she's obligated regardless of what any direction. Town board can't tell her not to do the things that she's mandated by law to do.
Well, one thing that would help is if we did have, maybe the tax collection idea should go to a higher E and take that
I'll
off.
hire somebody to
Yeah,
do that.
higher tax collection, yeah.
Well, I mean, you could,
That's a budget issue, and that's been done in the past.
Right, and it's not a
Um,
bad idea.
It's again, we've had more than one associate clerk or whatever they're called now
Deputy clerk,
before, doing different things.
right.
One of which was, so that's an organizational trait
Right.
internally. So rather than one deputy clerk, there can be more than one.
Right, and in fact, the first deputy clerk became deputy clerk precisely to help out with the taxes. Because there was so much work to do in January.
I think also, the relationship between the town clerk and the town board is collaborative. I don't think there needs to be a line there necessarily, because we run the town with the highway superintendent and to some extent with the court. So, lines, I think, maybe can get confusing here. This is a collaborative relationship. I mean, I work with a planner, I work with the code officer. I don't need to see any lines there. We work together. The planner needs something, or the code officer, I get them what they need.
Yeah, no, you're right. There doesn't need to be a line there.
It does, it does not.
Does not. She's right. There doesn't need to be a line there.
Right, I mean, these are the people who work, we all work for the town of Danby. We're all, and the board is the center of it. So we're all gonna work, the planning board members work with, I think everybody works together. I certainly work with the bookkeeper. I don't need to see a line there. I work very closely with the bookkeeper. But that's, it's just collaborative because we're running the town.
Right,
Yeah, and I think maybe that was one of the ideas of having this kind of meeting to help us all recognize that in a new and in a fresh way, or a reminder that it's a working group together, supported, elected by, supported by decisions that are made here to people in Danby. All of Danby.
So I don't know how much we can tweak this and make it any better than it is right now. You?
No, especially because we wanted, this is an initial time for Mariah to present.
Right.
We've spent a lot of our time talking instead of
And-
letting Mariah talk.
And then she just made some changes, so we
Yeah,
don't
so
need to
she-
talk anymore. We need to get the changes that we've already made. That's a good change. And then look at what other else comes out of there and then look at it again. There's no sense in,
I think, I mean,
Wasting
this is
time.
already multiple iterations that got to this point.
correct.
Looks pretty good. to me.
There's not been
All right.
time to look at it. That's why we need time to get it downloaded and look at it. And then we need to get the information from the water district, which you have said we're getting.
We're getting that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Can we go
Well,
home
thank
now?
you. Thank you, everybody.
That is the business of the meeting, and so, meeting adjourned.
Thanks for all your input.
Right.
I'm sorry to take 45, an hour and 15 minutes of your time.